Welcome back to the deep dive. We've got quite a stack of research today. Cloud architecture articles, notes on generative AI, competitive analysis, and we're boiling it all down for you into hopefully one clear insight. Today we're wading into business intelligence, specifically how Microsoft's big integrated platform fabric and all this generative AI stuff are kind of colliding with tools like Power BI.
Yeah, and what we really want to get into today isn't just what these tools do, but how they're actually changing the way people work. You know, are these new techs just making things faster, or are they maybe making the old ways, well, obsolete?
Exactly. And it really boils down to a basic problem in business, right? Getting an answer. Your average business user, they just want to know, hey, are my sales up or down? Which region isn't hitting its targets? Simple questions. But the sources we looked at really highlight that getting that simple answer from a, let's say, traditional BI system today, it takes, and this phrase kept coming up, a significant amount of institutional work.
That institutional work. That's kind of the wall everyone's trying to break down. So if you look at the first angle, Microsoft Fabric, that's all about platform consolidation. It's this integrated stack pulling together data warehousing, engineering, data science, and, importantly, Power BI itself.
Right. So instead of juggling all these separate tools for cleaning data, storing it, visualizing it, Fabric bundles it all up. It gives you this unified experience. The promise is you can do a lot more inside that Microsoft bubble because, well, it removes the friction between the parts.
And this is where we kind of need to step back and look at the bigger picture from the sources. Fabric is, yeah, it's impressive tech, but it's maybe more refinement than revolution. If you look at the competition.
You mean like this wasn't totally new territory?
Exactly. The whole unified data platform idea, it was already out there. You had big players like Databricks, like Snowflake, offering unified warehousing, lakehouse setups. Basically, they already had that integrated structure for handling data.
Okay, that's a really key point, especially for listeners who follow this space. Fabric's big strength integration isn't necessarily a unique selling point anymore, because others kind of got there first. It makes the Microsoft engine run smoother, sure, but it's not like a whole new type of engine.
Precisely. Fabric smooths out the bumps within the Microsoft ecosystem, but it doesn't fundamentally change the steps you, the user, have to take to get from raw data to, say, a dashboard. It's an efficiency improvement, maybe, but not really a game changer in terms of the actual workflow itself.
Okay, so let's unpack that. If the platform integration, Fabric, isn't the real revolution, if it's just really good engineering, then our analysis seems to point towards the second thing, the AI layer. That seems far more disruptive. The big takeaway from the sources was that the agentic AI capabilities, quote unquote, that's what's changing the game tremendously.
Yeah, and what's fascinating is how the conversation shifts. It's less about building a better tool and more about, well, maybe skipping the tool altogether. When we talk about agentic AI, we mean AI that doesn't just read data, it can act on it. It understands your question, figures out the steps, find the data, write some code maybe, run a query, and just gives you the result, often without needing a human guiding every single step.
And this isn't just theory, right? We're seeing actual experiments. We saw mentions of people tracking industry figures like Brian Julius. Apparently, he's really big into that space. These aren't just academics. They're showing real examples of AI becoming more like an agent that finds answers, not just a canvas for drawing charts.
And there were notes about playing with newer tools, too, like Plotly Studio. It's all part of this trend, figuring out how AI can automate away all that complex BI groundwork, trying to move away from building all that infrastructure.
Because that significant amount of institutional work we mentioned, if you look at traditional Power BI today, it involves some really specific time-consuming steps.
Oh, absolutely. To answer that simple question, what are my sales? You've got this whole pipeline. First, data engineers prep the raw data. Then a BI developer has to build what's called a semantic model.
Okay, let's pause on semantic model because that sounds important, but maybe a bit jargony. For you listening, think of it like the official governed dictionary the BI tool uses. It makes sure when someone asks for sales, everyone agrees on what that actually means. Gross, net, after returns. It enforces consistency.
Exactly right. It's the governance layer. And after that's built, then you start putting visuals together, defining metrics, packing it all into dashboards, all this structure, this sort of rigid setup, just to answer that one business question reliably the next time someone asks. You build the machine first.
It feels like you're building this huge, complex machine just to get one number out. But what if? What if you could just skip the machine building?
And that's the huge disruption promised by LLMs. It totally flips the script on the workflow. The user doesn't need to worry about dashboards or data models or visual design. Instead, they might just open up an LLM, think Claude or ChatGPT, but like securely hooked into the company's data and just ask in plain English, what were my net sales in the Midwest last quarter compared to the one before, but exclude the wholesale returns.
And the promise is the system just gives them the answer. Boom. Which goes right back to that core tension. Business folks want the result, the reliable number, not the complicated journey to get it. They don't really want the semantic model or the dashboard building part. They just want the answer, vetted and delivered.
Which then leads to this really fundamental, maybe even existential question for dashboard tools like Power BI. If users can reliably get direct answers from an LLM that's safely connected to the data, if they can bypass all the visual stuff, the pre-built models, well, is Power BI even hurt by it, as one source put it?
Yeah.
Does that whole complex BI process become, redundant?
But wait a second. If we skip that semantic model, the human-defined governance bit, how do we make sure the answers are right and consistent? Doesn't the work just shift from the BI developers defining rules in Power BI to like an LLM prompt engineer trying to get the AI to understand the rules? That sounds just as hard, maybe harder.
That's the challenge, isn't it? And that brings us right to the reality check. The sources were very clear. This future, the seamless just ask, get the answer world, it's not here yet. There are still too many significant hurdles.
Okay, let's get specific. What are those hurdles? What's stopping the LLM from just taking over dashboards today?
Well, there are a few big ones. First, data governance. It's tricky. How do you make sure the LLM only accesses data it's allowed to? How do you audit how it got the answer? That's much clearer inside a structured semantic model. Second, and this is a big one for business numbers, the risk of quantitative hallucination.
Right, the AI confidently making up a number that looks plausible but is just plain wrong, which is obviously terrible for things like sales figures or profit margins.
Exactly. LLMs are, at their core, language predictors. They're not inherently built for mathematical precision across huge, messy data sets. Getting them to reliably understand complex calculations and perform them accurately every single time, that's a massive challenge.
Yeah.
So until those reliability and governance issues are really nailed down, the dashboard is still the safer, auditable, sort of official source of truth.
Okay, so pulling it all together, we've got these two currents pushing the industry, right? On one hand, integrated platforms like Fabric are making the current BI process super efficient, refining the engine.
And on the other hand, you have agentic AI promising this fundamental disruption to the workflow itself, threatening to make the whole existing process, the semantic models, the dashboards, maybe unnecessary, replacing the engine entirely with just a conversation.
It really feels like we're watching this slow collision. You've got this highly perfected, governance-focused tool getting incredibly refined, while this other disruptive tech is bubbling up, potentially making all that perfection irrelevant.
And that leads to the final thought. If AI does eventually overcome these current problems, the governance headaches, the math errors, the reliability, if it gets to the point where it can consistently give you accurate, trustworthy, direct answers to complex business questions without needing a developer to pre-build that semantic model,
then why would you need the dashboard? The question shifts from how fast can I build this visual to why am I building this visual at all?
That's really the provocative question for you to think about. If the data platform is solid and the AI agents become truly reliable, what's the core value left for products primarily designed to present data visually? It'll be, really interesting to see where tools like Power BI and that whole category actually end up in the next, say, 5 years.